That is something millions of families are going through right now, and the expense is astounding. We're talking about moving a parent from their home to a care facility. It can be both a financial and emotional burden. So how do you plan for something so huge for both your parents and yourself someday? Here's Rena Sargentopoulos.
I did not understand how many decisions had to be made.
When Randy Larson's mom needed immediate care, the family jumped into go mode.
In the beginning, there is so much you have to do to just coordinate and do the paperwork and the applications and the discussions and the meetings and the phone calls and the emails and the scanning.
Their story isn't unique. Most families at some point have to make the same kinds of decisions.
Most people are really very overwhelmed by it.
Kathleen Dempsey would know it's her job at Pathfinder Care Management to help people like Randy navigate the system. And boy, is the water deep.
And I always say the good news is we have a lot of options. The bad news is we have a lot of options.
Options range from various levels of in-home care to independent living, assisted living, all the way up to skilled nursing facilities. The key is to know what level of care you need and then, of course, what you can afford.
Does someone's finances sometimes dictate what your options are?
It really does. So much is determined by what your finances are.
And that is where this gets really tricky. According to Genworth Long-Term Care, the average cost for assisted living in the Twin Cities was $4,500 a month in 2017. The average cost for a nursing home, $9,000. $9,000 a month. And unless you qualify for Medicaid, you will need to pay out of pocket. For those with enough means, no problem. But for those in the middle, which is most people, it could drain everything you have, from your bank account to your home.
Most people are not planning ahead for long-term care in retirement. You know, they're focusing on just having enough money to retire, let alone having extra money to plan if you're going to be in the nursing home.
Mike Kojonen is a financial advisor. He says the best way to plan is to start early.
If you're going to buy a long-term care policy, the best time to get that is in your 40s or 50s when your health is really good and the cost is cheaper.
Long-term care insurance is one way to do it. Many employers offer it to purchase as part of your benefits package. And there are a number of options on the open market.
There are some long-term care policies that are called a return on premium, which I'm a big fan of. You pay a little bit more on it because that's another big fear is, what if I paid into this for 15, 20 years and then I pass away and I just wasted all this money? Well, you can put them into an account where if you never used it, at least that money gets paid out to your beneficiaries.
Both Mike and Kathleen from Pathfinder suggest sitting down with an elder law attorney, regardless of your assets, because quite frankly, the laws, especially around Medicare and Medicaid, are confusing, and every situation is different.
I think people are surprised to learn that Medicare does not cover more long-term care services. There is a limited benefit for long-term care services under Medicare, but that benefit is intended to get somebody back to independent living. So if it becomes a situation, for example, where somebody has advancing memory loss and they're going to need support through the rest of their life, Medicare is not going to cover that.
And if you think gifting your estate away now will stop you from losing it in the future, just know the government is on to that. Minnesota now has a 5-year look-back period. Any gifts of money or property in the 60 months before applying for Medicaid are fair game.
They don't necessarily comb through the bank records. They have the ability to do that if they want to, but they're asking for a voluntary disclosure. I get asked all the time, do they go after my children if my children are the ones who received that? Technically, no. What they will do is deny coverage for the person who made the gift.
The moral of the story, plan ahead if you're able. It's tough enough to make the decision to put a parent in someone else's care, let alone to have to worry about how to pay for it.
It was, and still is, very much an emotional process.
Well, there are ways to protect your assets so that you have something to leave behind. An elder law attorney knows all the ins and outs of the laws to help make sure that you do it legally. And veterans, you should know that there are more benefits and more of you qualify than you might think. So even if you think, oh, I left too soon, I'm not going to if you were in the military, you likely qualify for some sort of veterans benefits. Elder law attorney would be a great person to talk to about that, because there are so many things that you just don't know, and the system is so big and so broad.
And so complicated, and it's such an interesting point that if you gave a gift to your child, that could mean you don't get the care that you need subsidized. So Really, really great piece, so important.
And it's hard to talk about because every situation is so different. So you try to give a broad, this is definitely a
Right,
broad overview
right.
of the situation. Yeah.
Thank you, Rena. Let's head outside.